The desert is beautiful, but it is also merciless. During the day, the sun turns the sand into a burning sea of heat. At night, the temperature drops so fast that the same land becomes cold and silent, almost haunting. Now imagine standing there alone. No water, no phone signal, no lights in the distance. Just endless dunes stretching into darkness. That is exactly what happened to one tourist whose relaxing trip suddenly turned into a terrifying survival story. What began as a short walk away from a tour group became a long night of fear, confusion, and a desperate struggle to stay alive. This is the intense story of a traveler who became lost in the desert overnight, and the frightening moments that followed when survival depended on every decision they made. It started as a normal day. A group of tourists had traveled deep into a desert region known for its stunning sand dunes and dramatic sunsets. The landscape looked like something from another planet. Golden hills of sand rolled endlessly into the distance, shaped by the wind over thousands of years. People were taking photos, laughing, and enjoying the quiet beauty of the place. Their guide gave a simple warning before everyone stepped out of the vehicles. Stay within sight of the group. The desert can be confusing. Most people listened. They stayed close, taking pictures and enjoying the view. But one tourist decided to walk a little farther. Not far, just over a nearby dune to capture a better photo of the sunset. From the top of that dune, the view looked incredible. The sun was sinking slowly toward the horizon, painting the sky with orange and red light. The tourist lifted the camera and snapped a few pictures. But when they turned around to walk back, something felt wrong. The vehicles were gone. Or at least, they couldn't be seen anymore. At first, it didn't seem like a big problem. The tourist assumed the group was just behind the next dune, so they started walking. Over one dune, then another. But every time they climbed a hill of sand and looked around, the view looked exactly the same. Endless dunes. No roads, no people, no vehicles. That's when the first wave of panic arrived. The desert plays tricks on the mind. Distances are hard to judge. Landmarks disappear as the wind reshapes the sand. What looked like a short walk earlier was suddenly a maze of identical hills. The tourist climbed another dune, breathing harder now. Still nothing. The sun was already touching the horizon. Darkness was coming, and in the desert, night arrives quickly. As the last sunlight faded, the desert transformed. The warm golden glow vanished, replaced by long shadows stretching across the sand. The temperature dropped fast. The tourists checked their phone. No signal. Battery at 40%. They tried calling anyway. Nothing. For the first time, the reality of the situation became clear. They were completely alone, lost in a desert that stretched for miles. The wind started picking up, whispering across the dunes and erasing footprints within minutes. Even if rescuers came looking, there might be no trace of where they had gone. The tourists looked around again, hoping to see headlights or hear voices, but the desert was silent. When darkness finally arrived, it was absolute. The sky filled with stars, thousands of them, but they provided almost no light. The tourists tried to stay calm. Panic wastes energy. They remembered a basic survival rule they once heard. If you're lost, don't wander too far. But standing still felt terrifying. What if the group had already left? What if no one realized they were missing? So the tourist kept walking slowly, hoping to reach higher ground. Climbing dunes in the dark was exhausting. Every step forward slid halfway back. Sand filled their shoes. Breathing became heavy. Hours passed. The desert grew colder and colder. Without proper clothing, the cold started cutting through their body like a blade. By midnight, dehydration was already setting in. The tourist hadn't brought water. Their lips felt dry, their throat burned. And something strange started happening. They thought they saw lights in the distance, small flickering points, maybe vehicles, maybe a campsite. Hope rushed through them, and they started walking faster. But the lights never got closer. Eventually, they disappeared completely. Mirages aren't just daytime illusions. In extreme conditions, the mind can create images that feel completely real. Fatigue made everything worse. Every sound felt amplified. The wind across the sand sometimes sounded like footsteps. At one point, the tourist even thought they heard voices, but when they stopped and listened carefully, there was nothing, only silence. While the tourist struggled through the darkness, something important was happening miles away. Back at the desert camp, the tour guide began counting the group. One person was missing. At first, the guide assumed the tourist was still nearby taking photos, but after searching the immediate area for 20 minutes, concerns started to grow. The guide contacted local rescue teams. Within an hour, several vehicles were scanning the desert with powerful lights. Search teams followed tire tracks and explored nearby dunes. But the desert at night is enormous, and finding one person in a sea of sand is incredibly difficult. Meanwhile, the lost tourist was running out of energy. Their legs felt heavy. Walking became slower and slower. Eventually, they sat down on the side of a dune, staring up at the sky. The stars looked incredibly bright, far brighter than in any city. But the beauty of the night couldn't hide the fear growing inside. What if no one found them? What if morning heat arrived before rescue did? Desert temperatures during the day can reach deadly levels. Without water, survival becomes almost impossible. The tourists forced themselves to stand up again. They couldn't give up. Not yet. Around 3 a.m., something remarkable happened. In the distance, headlights appeared briefly on the horizon. A rescue vehicle. The tourist waved their arms and shouted, but the distance was too great. The wind carried the sound away. The rescue team passed less than a kilometer away, completely unaware someone was watching them in the darkness. It was a heartbreaking near miss. The tourist collapsed back onto the sand, exhausted. But they knew they had to keep moving, because rescue teams were somewhere out there. Eventually, the black sky began to fade. A thin line of pale blue appeared on the horizon. Morning was coming. The tourists slowly climbed one final dune, hoping to see something, anything. And this time, they did. Far in the distance, a vehicle was moving across the desert. But this time, it was closer, much closer. The tourist waved both arms and started shouting again. The vehicle stopped. For a few long seconds, nothing happened. Then, the headlights turned toward the dune. The rescue team had finally seen movement. Within minutes, the vehicle reached the base of the dune. Rescuers ran toward the exhausted traveler. After nearly 24 hours lost in the desert, the tourist was finally safe. They were dehydrated, cold, and completely exhausted, but alive. Later, rescuers estimated that during the night, the tourist had wandered nearly 10 kilometers from the original location, 10 kilometers in the wrong direction. It was pure luck that search teams eventually crossed their path. The desert may look peaceful from a distance, but it is one of the most dangerous environments on Earth. Landscapes change, directions disappear, and a short walk can quickly turn into a life-threatening situation. For this tourist, one simple decision to walk a little farther for a photograph became a terrifying night of survival, and a reminder that nature doesn't forgive mistakes. Because in the desert, once you lose your way, the sand can hide you forever.